When you think about extreme bowl, you either think of this or this. But Extreme Bowl is also a Chinese company that creates electric unicycles.
You had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
And in 2022, they came up with this, the Extreme Bowl XM. So, let me tell you more about it.
Wrong way.
Now, if you're not familiar with electric unicycles, these are essentially devices to get around the city, but you can also have a lot of fun on them. And I think that the XM was destined to do that. While most other EUC companies in 2022 were developing bigger electric unicycles, heavier ones, with suspension, with more power, more battery, the XM was something that was more of a throwback to the past.
Oh, jackpot!
So the XM is definitely a throwback to the not so distant past of electric unicycles resembling the Bigode RS or the MSP. Well, it also shares a lot of the internal components from a Bigode RS. So it really reminds me of the good old days, both in a good way and sort of in a bad way too.
I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them.
And it's most likely that you see this electric unicycle for the first time, even though you already know electric wheels. And there's a good reason for it. Nobody bought it, especially in Europe. There's very few of these electric unicycles rolling around, and I've never seen any XM in public just riding around the streets of Poland, mainly because we Polish people like Polish products, and this is definitely not one of them.
Oh, okay, I see what you did there.
But before we talk about the sort of exterior features of the XM, let me guide you through the specifications of this wheel. And essentially it is a Bigode RS with a motherboard or controller that is placed on the top of the wheel. We have a 1800 watt-hour battery with Samsung 50E cells and sadly no smart BMS. The motor power is about 2800 watts. Really, it's always the same motor in Bigode or Extreme Bowl wheels. Just the magnet width is different, maybe some components inside, but essentially it's a 60 volt motor packed into a 100 volt wheel. But I digress. There were two versions of the XM available, either with a high torque motor, and then the shell would be yellow because yellow stands for torque.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And the high-speed version was red. Red, obviously, for speed here. It does actually make sense. And here, the magnet width was 30 millimeters. So the difference between those two was that the red one, which was destined for speed, didn't brake all that well, didn't accelerate all that well. It didn't have a lot of torque reserve, especially for heavier riders. And the high torque version was better for the heavier riders if you wanted to do inclines. I have the high torque version, even though it's red. The motors actually are cross compatible, so if you have a HS version and you want to change it to a HT, you just swap the motors, no software update is needed, and then you have a high torque version. So yeah, red and high torque. The top speed of the high torque would be anywhere around 50 kilometers an hour, and of the high speed maybe 70, 80, but I wouldn't go so fast anyway on an electric unicycle, so if you want to get one of these, I would just do high torque pretty much. When it comes to range, I didn't do a range test on it, so I just go for short rides on it, but if you would want to go for a long ride, I guess around 80 to 100 kilometers would be the range. The stock charger has a power of 3 amps, so for a full charge you would need about, 6 hours. It does have 2 charge ports on the top, so you can double your 3 amp chargers and then charge it at around 3 hours. I actually don't know what the maximum charge rate of this wheel is. I might check it out later. I'm not sure how much we can check at a full charge, but going 4 amps, 7 amps still charging. Check more. 8. Okay, I guess at 8 it stopped. And 8 still charging. Okay, above 8 it turns off. Now before we get any further, if you would want to get a wheel that is similar to this one but actually is still being produced and you want to just have something simpler, easier to ride on, then head on over to myewheel.com. I would say that the Kingsong 18XL or the InMotion V12 would be sort of the most similar feeling wheel, which they have actually for sale in their lineup, and a wheel that they have parts on. You can also use my coupon code wrongway to get a discount on those wheels. With that said, probably you're wondering what came in the box of the Extreme Bull XM. And happily, after carefully inspecting, I didn't see any stains, so probably nobody came in the box of the XM. I didn't come in it either. What was inside the box though is very interesting. Now the first thing that I also got rid of was this. This is a side pad that you stick on the bottom here, which has a nice area for your toes to... Oh my god, this looks perfect. Now why did I remove it? For your toes to lift up the wheel. Now initially I removed it because I thought that a different pad would fit here on the bottom, but it was actually quite tough to do. So I might actually go back to having this piece on the bottom. Slick! And with this piece in, it is also more ergonomical for your feet and for your leg. It doesn't hit so much against the metal cage or metal frame here on the bottom. So that's the first thing that was in the box. The second thing in the box were the side pads, sadly mounted with double-sided tape, but they are contoured, so they especially fit the XM. So if we take those Grizzla pads off, and if you want to buy such Grizzla pads, go to grizzla.com. You can configure pads for your wheel. You can check out how they look on your wheel, and then use my coupon code wrongway to get 5% off your purchase. So yeah, Grizzla pads. Then you can see how they would fit. Boom. Now, they're not so adjustable, so I won't use them at all. But this is what you would get if you would buy a Extreme Bull XM. Oh, and also, fun fact, this wheel was initially called the X-Men, and presumably for no apparent copyright infringement issue whatsoever, it was later changed to the XM. Funny. We also did get a trolley handle, and for obvious reasons I didn't mount it because it goes on here, and it's the first thing that would break on this contraption. So, or maybe it goes down here even. I don't really know, I don't care. This is one of the flimsiest pieces of trolley handle, but it does lock in place. I actually didn't know about that. It has a button. I mean, it's certain this is like straight out of a Samsonite luggage and just with some CNC parts mounted to it. So now let's move on to some of the more intricate details of the Extreme Bull XM. Depending on the model you have, you would also get a different tire. This was street oriented, so this is more of a street tire. And I believe the High Torque had a off-road knobby tire. I freaking love this tire. This is so stable. This is great for beginner riders. I wonder why more companies don't use this tire. I think, is it a CST? I don't know what it is even. I'll check on that a bit later. For high speed is great, for lower speed is great. It's not that wide, but it's so maneuverable. I freaking adore this tire, and I wish it came on a bigger amount of electric unicycles. Now, further up, we have Grizzla pedals. Now, of course, these aren't stock. The stock ones were those pedals, and these pedals had nice studs, pretty big, almost too big, but very few of them. So I would like slip out here with my foot placed somewhere here. So even though they're big, they're also very heavy and not that grippy. So I removed them and I changed them for those amazingly looking red Grizzla pedals. If you want to get some of these, head on over to grizzla.com. I would probably just hang this on the wall. They're so nicely made. Yeah. Moving a bit higher on the wheel, you notice that there is 6 screws here. And actually this wheel is one of the only wheels ever to be made with a sort of frame construction. Now, those screws hold on to a L-shaped hanger, like an L hanger, that's what the name is in our electric unicycle world. And if you remove those 6 screws, presumably you just like lift it up and you can change a tire. One of the easiest tire changers ever on an electric unicycle. And with that frame construction, this wheel feels also very rigid. It's nice to do tricks on it, it's very maneuverable, it's very predictable to ride on, and that's a feature I really like about the XM. However, this material is definitely not the most durable one. I think that the paint is the most durable element of the frame itself, because scratches, scuffs, I think that the welds are also not of the best sort. Extreme Bull XM owners can definitely comment on that. I can just tell you that, you know, if Trek, the bicycle company, made this would be awesome. But when Extreme Bull make this, I mean, it looks great. I think it's one of the best looking wheels ever made, but definitely not one of the most durable ones. And this was probably also to the detriment of its sales figures. You can also see, like here, this is just a very thin piece of metal, and I'm sure the whole contraption can just bend if you crash it harder. Anyways, moving on, here on the top we have the batteries. On both sides we have 900 watt hours, and there's a bunch of cables running out to the motherboard from the outside here. Again, I wouldn't say this is a water resistant wheel, and probably in the instruction manual we can find out a bit more that we can't ride it in rain. Actually, I have the user manual here, so let's have a read. So this is the Extreme Bull user manual and warranty card, and in it they even tell me, if you need to inquire about any product related information, please feel free to contact us. And then there is a address. No phone number, no email, no website, just their address. So if something breaks in your wheel, you know where to catch a flight to. The user manual doesn't contain a lot of the user manual part. It just tells you about all the specification of this wheel. It tells you about, I guess, more specs and stuff written in Mandarin, I guess. And there's a test report, which doesn't say anything either. But I'll read you some of my favorite safety excerpts from the user manual. Attention! This product is an entertainment product, not a motor vehicle that can be legally used on the road. I'm glad they got rid of all of their responsibility right there. Then they tell you a bit about their safety sort of precautions on the wheel, short circuit protection, under voltage, over voltage. Still, it's pretty cool they mentioned this in the user manual. The following persons are prohibited from driving this product. Otherwise, you need to bear the consequences. I wonder what those are, Extreme Bull. You want to spank me?
Stop it. Get some help.
Minors under the age of 14 and seniors over the age of 60. So if you're younger or older than that, good luck riding your Extreme Bull. Probably will just like throw you off right away. It probably has an age filter built into it, so it doesn't turn on if a too young or too old finger touches it. I also like part C. Do not drive in the dark. It has lights. Why do you say that, Extreme Bull? Or where your vision is obstructed. If necessary, you can purchase bicycle headlights and accessory brackets separately. I don't think any like accessory brackets were sold for this wheel, and it still does come with lights. However, do not ride it in the dark. Do not drive it in rain or snow or any road that is soft, muddy, water, or icy. I guess this wheel is more fragile than men being rejected.
Sorry.
Do not drive at high speed or accelerate or decelerate violently when the battery power is low. The battery indicator is yellow or red. I don't think there is even a... No. Is there colors in the battery indicator? I believe not. So be violent with it, just at that full battery state. Now, all jokes aside, if you are familiar with EUCs, you will know when and where to ride this thing. It has beeps that will tell you that you will be like overpowering it. And if you ride responsibly, I would say up to 30-35 kilometers an hour, you would be pretty safe off on this wheel. But again, stock, I wouldn't ride it in rain. I just don't believe in the stock water resistance of this wheel. Plus, it also can get cracks here on the top, which I'll talk about in a second. And then, I mean, you don't want to get electrocuted, do you? I mean, you wouldn't get, it would just like turn off by itself while riding. Now, moving up on the XM, we also get a mudguard in the back, which is made out of plastic. It does bend a lot because I often put the wheel on a kickstand, which is below here. Super nice kickstand, by the way. Really nice and really functional. And just in front of the mudguard, below the top motherboard cover sort of or enclosure, we get speakers, Bluetooth speakers. And not surprisingly, because the mud is spraying up from the tire here into the speakers, they sound pretty muddy. So not only do they sound muddy because of the mud itself, the speakers are just also very muffled. The precision is terrible. I mean, what were you thinking? How can I even justify that? In the front of the wheel, we get a set of nice headlights. Those headlights have a very focused beam. It's not the best for off-roading. It doesn't show you like a lot of the street in front of you, but happily it doesn't blind people. So for me, it's a win, and I do like those lights. It does have RGB taillights and plenty of modes for them. You switch them by pressing the light button 3 times. So even if you don't want to, when you turn on and off the light, you switch your preset. Above that, we have a front handle, which is made out of a very brittle plastic. So here it is already cracking. And behind we get 2 buttons. One of them is the power button and the light button, and the one next to it is the lift switch button. So you can press the lift switch and then lift up the wheel. I got intel that I shouldn't use the lift switch because it might fry the board. So I never used this button. On top we get a motherboard cover, which I don't know if it is sealed. I didn't really open up the wheel before. However, again, I wouldn't ride it in the rain. Because I crashed this wheel already, it has a crack here in the top cover, so definitely I wouldn't ride it in the rain, and it is, as said, a very brittle product. We also get a small screen here in the front, which shows you the speed, the battery level, the temperature of the motherboard, and some other minor details. Pretty nice to have that, a nice visible screen on the wheel. On the top of the wheel, we also get the 2 charge ports, and again, I don't know if they're properly sealed. It's pretty nice to have this flap on the top, and it's easy to charge it up too. Now, currently it is snowing in Poland, and as the user manual told me, I shouldn't ride this wheel in snow. However, I did ride it already. I didn't put a lot of miles onto it, but every mile was a smile. And this is something that I wanted to highlight in this wheel, even though I think it's pretty crap. The idea of it I really like, and I think that cheaper wheels, lighter wheels, simpler wheels are a great contribution to the EUC community, and especially new EUC riders, because you don't always need the suspension, you don't need the huge battery to go long distance. Sometimes you just need something small to get around. This is somewhat of a, I would say, BMX wheel that can also get you to the pump track and back. However, I noticed after riding a BMX that a BMX is better for the pump track than a BMX type wheel. So I guess that's that. With that said, I'm very happy that I tried this wheel out, and I reaffirmed in my brain that there is still space for non-suspension, cheaper, simpler wheels, and I'd love to see more wheels in the future that are made like that. And one of the strong points of this wheel is, compared for example to the Emotion V12 and the Kingsong 18XL, is that it has a hollow bore motor, so the axle won't fail on you here due to jumps or longer rides, dropping off curbs, etc. The power is there, the torque is there, although not the, super big torque that we have nowadays, just enough. So yeah, just sort of everything around that can fail on you. But with that said, this is the Extreme Bull XM. I hope you liked this video, and if you're still here, leave a like on it, subscribe to see more content like this, and I'll see you in the next video. See you soon.